And Another Thing. Douglas Adams' Hitch-Hiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Part 6 of 3, by Ian Colfer. Chapter 2. Ford Prefect explored the room of sky, breathing on the walls to see if the surface fogged, pulling horrible faces to check for a recoil factor, and eventually touching it gingerly through his sleeve. When the material of his shirt did not have its electrons excited to a higher temperature, Ford deemed it safe to poke the wall with his finger. He did so, and the wall rippled, sending images of Flayboos' wedding ceremonies, beach huts and wild parties flitting across the room. When the ripples died, so did the residual memories, and the wall was azure sky once more. "Do you mind?" said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere. "My needles are on red as it is, to coin an archaic phrase. If you could just sit still, I can hold this construct together a while longer." "So you say that the whole room is a construct," said Ford, poking the wall again. "Would you? Didn't I just say? Yes, it's a construct. This waiting lounge is all in your head, in all of your heads. It is a virtual room. Is there another way you would like me to impart this information?" Ford scratched his chin and was disappointed to find that it was not as chiselled as it had been at Han Weevil. "How about a video?" The sky walls disappeared altogether, replaced by several representations of a robotic bird, tapping a claw impatiently. "Ah," said Ford, "the Hitch-Hiker's Guide to the Galaxy Mark II. I thought as much. I haven't seen you since..." Ford flipped through his solidifying memories. "Since you tried to get the Earth blasted to pieces." "Not since then," said the bird. "Not since way back then. Imagine." "You've upgraded your feathers to gold, I see." "It's a construct, Betelgeuse. I appear as I wish to appear. So did you, back at the resort. Remember the chin?" Ford sighed wistfully. "I do. That was so fruity. The shadows I could cast with that godlike chin." "I've seen a few gods," remarked the bird. "Some of them are not so great in the chin department. Why do you think Loki cultivates that beard?" Ford pierced a little. "Back to my question. How about a video?" H2G2-2 scowled, which is not easy with a beak. "Didn't you hear me? The needles are on red. I can't hold the waiting lounge together for much longer." "Nothing fancy, just some 2D animation. Old school stuff. I know you can do it if you really want to." The bird rolled its eyes dramatically and then disappeared from one of the walls. In its place, a black screen opened, and on the screen were 4 neon stick figures. One had rather outlandish boob circles, and another hadn't much in the way of chins. Said Ford to the sky, "Very humorous." A cartoon bird appeared on the screen and hovered above the 4 humanoids. "Welcome," said the bird, "to this video demonstration, which I like to call Constructs for Idiots." Ford raised a finger. "Does that mean that the people in the constructs are idiots, or that you're explaining to idiots?" The bird ignored him. "As a pan-dimensional, mega-advanced, omniscient travel guide, equipped with the very best organobrain, capable of running over 10 trillion simultaneous calculations..." Ford rapped on the screen. "Could you keep it down and hurry it up? I feel pretty sure that there is bad news coming, and it might be better if I get to grips with it first. Some people in this room don't handle bad news so well. I'd like to have a chance to massage the truth a little before I present it." "Well, if you'd stop wittering on..." "I am stopped. Go ahead, please." The bird cleared its throat in a wholly unnecessary manner. "As I was saying, as such an advanced biohybrid organism, it was a simple matter for me to poke a neuron beam into the dream center at the back of each brain. Yours was a little hard to find, by the way, Betelgeusian, and then linked to the neural networks through a central server. That is to say, myself. Ford frowned. "Show me some moving pictures," he said. On screen, blue beams fanned from the bird's wingtips, entering the humanoid's heads through one ear, then exiting through the other ear and converging on the H2G2-2's forehead. "So you sent us to sleep and gave us a dream." "I gave you life for a long time." "But it was a virtual life. We didn't go anywhere." "Correct. Anywhere or anywhen." "Which is not a word. Organobrain, really." "I was trying to be succinct." Ford pawed to the wall again, this time with 2 fingers, watching the memory ripples run around the walls and intermingle. "It's all a dream, then? And not just this room?" "No," said the voice coldly. "Not just this room." More pawking. "How far back?" "Club Beta." "Club Beta? That bongs a gong for some reason. Club Dingly Dangly Beta." Ford stopped pacing. "Holy shankroosters!" "I will thank you," said the Hitchhiker's Guide Mark II, "to mind your language. I am fully programmed to take offence." "Aren't we all?" Guide note, this is literally true of the Cypherals of Sassafras Magna, a gas giant in the Pleiades system. The Cypherals are tiny, invertebrate, free-swimming gastrozoa who absorb the hostile energy emitted by their predators and use it to power their own systems. This makes the predators angry, and so the Cypherals swim faster through the gas ocean. Sassafras Magna gas dragons have learnt to approach the Cypherals casually, whistling a little tune or pretending to search for a few coins they've mislaid. The Cypherals always fall for these tricks, as nature gave them large energy filters and tiny bullshit detectors. Ford's memory was a little hazy. Club Beta in London. But that was... I have no idea how long ago that was. "It was then, and it is now. My perception is unfiltered, so I see all points of my existence simultaneously." "How about us impoverished beings with filtered perceptions?" Ford didn't like this bird much, and believed that he wouldn't like it even with a few gargle blasters eating at his stomach lining. "You are still in the club. No time has passed." Ford grabbed clumps of his ginger hair. Why, for Zuck's sake, why?" Mark II rolled its pixelated eyes. "You try to do someone a favour. Honestly." "Favour?" spluttered Ford, not giving a damn who heard. "If you wanted to do us a favour, you could have transported us away from the exploding planet." "That would have been in direct contradiction with my programme. I have prolonged your life by several decades." "Who asked you to?" "Not me." "Random Dent made the request. She is my secondary master. When the human miner realized that the entire planet was about to be destroyed, she expressed regret that she had not been allowed to live her life as she would have wished. Granting that wish did not conflict with my primary directive." "What about the rest of us?" "Mistress Dent included her parents and their chinless, dim-witted friend in her thoughts." Ford was wounded. "Chinless? She thought that?" "Oh, yes," said the bird with obvious relish. "Several times." Something occurred to Ford. "Secondary master? Who's the primary?" "You are not entitled to interrogate me," snapped Mark II. Ford borrowed a tactic from the Sassafras Magna gas dragons. "I know that. Of course, a wondrous being like yourself doesn't have to answer to a lowly Betelgeusian like myself. But it would be a lovely treat for me to understand the complexities of your plan." The bird cocked its head. "I know what you're doing." "Obviously." "I experience every moment simultaneously." "No point in arguing then, is there? You already know what you're going to do." "Good point. Very well. The Vogons created me so that I could cajole you back to Earth before the Grebulons destroyed it." "Which is happening now." "Now, as you know it, yes."
"Will we be rescued?"
"Probably not."
"So you gave us the lives we wanted?"
No, I gave you free will and a construct. You followed your own paths under my supervision. Ford winked at the bird.
Ha, I get it. I see now. You wanted to experience real time.
Mark II dropped its beak slowly, crossing its wings across its breast. I lived your lives with you, never knowing what was coming next. It was exhilaratingly random.
And now?
Now I know exactly what happens. 100 years of maintaining 4 universes has depleted my power source. I only lasted this long because I periodically combined 2 constructs for the past virtual 20 years. Perhaps I should have thought of that sooner, but linear time is so immediate. In 5 virtual minutes this room will disappear, and you will be left on Earth facing the planet-killer beams of the Grepulons. Ford's throat was suddenly too dry, and his thoughts too cohesive. How he missed the cocktail hour.
5 minutes.
And counting, said Mark II, fading from view. In the places where the bird had been, there appeared several digital readouts which said 4.57, then 4.56. You get the picture.
Humans think digital watches are pretty neat, murmured Ford absently,
then turned to face the 3 humans who were busy doing their utmost to avoid being the least bit civil to each other. The old man wasn't as ancient as he had been barely a moment before. He could tell this by the tautness of the skin on his hands and the renewed sharpness of his hearing. I can hear every word these 2 women shriek at me. Oh, joy!
Arthur!
Yelled the elder of the 2. Actually yelled. He hadn't been yelled at in, decades.
Are you even listening to me?
Trying not to, thought Arthur, keeping his head down.
I hate her! Screamed the teenager. She abandoned me, and now she wants to control me. How does that make sense? Arthur! Daddy! I'm speaking to you, Arthur Dent.
Arthur Dent. It fit him. It was him. Arthur Dent, mumbled Arthur Dent, and he wasn't happy to hear it.
Is that all you have to say, after all these years?
I'm an old man, said Arthur hopefully. Leave me alone.
Old,
said the woman.
What are you talking about, old? You look exactly the same as you did the last time I saw you. Exactly. How did you do that?
It was as Arthur feared. All those years alone on his beach, and now he was back in the universe with people shouting at him, and no idea what was going on. How did I do what?
Stay so young. I'm younger than you, and I look like a silicone implant after a night in a toaster. Oh, why did I bother with all these refits? I should have retired or brought Random along with me. Other parents do it.
Arthur resigned himself to the fact that there was no wishing himself back to the beach and made eye contact. He saw a slim, darkish young woman with shoulder-length curling black hair and chocolate eyes, wearing a dark, shimmering trouser suit. Memories poked through to his consciousness. Trillian, you look beautiful. The brown eyes blinked.
Screw you, Arthur. I didn't come here to be patronised.
Sorry. You look beautiful, miss.
Arthur, I chose Zaphod at the party, so live with it and drop that torch you're carrying. You need to see me as I am. My foot buzzes, for heaven's sake.
Does it really? I didn't notice, and I would notice, because my hearing has become pretty sharp just recently. Trillian placed 2 fingers on her left tibia, searching for the vibration that generally thrummed along her shin bone, keeping her awake at night.
No buzzing.
Mother, said Random behind her. Mum. Trillian noticed her fingernails were all her own, no acrylic falsies. I am young, youngish. How can this be? Time is running backwards.
Mum, just a minute, Random. Tickle your bloody yo-yo or something.
Fertile is gone, Mum. I'm no one again. Trillian realised the enormity of what had happened and rushed to comfort her daughter.
It's okay, darling. We have our lives to live over.
Random clenched her fingers into tiny fists. I don't want this life. I want to be president of the galaxy. Is that too much to ask?
The president was gone, and in her place a tearful teenage goth. Guide note, the goth phenomena is not confined to the planet Earth. Many species choose to define their adolescent periods with sustained truculent silences and the heartfelt belief that their parents took the wrong baby home from the hospital because their natural parents could not possibly be so mind-warpingly dense and boring. While the adolescents of Earth advertise their feelings of isolation by wearing black clothing and listening to rock bands with names like Bloodshock and Sputum, the Hulu, a super-intelligent shade of blue, demonstrate their dissatisfaction with the universe by holding their breath until they turn deep purple, while the tubular Zingulatorians, deep-sea crustaceans, drive their parents demented by literally talking out of their asses. Trillian realised that her daughter was a child once more, and she hugged the girl with something close to ferocity.
We have each other again. Daddy's here too.
Trillian's rush of enthusiasm was enough to make her dizzy.
All the things we can do together. Camping and getting earrings and stuff. So many protests and marching. You'll love those. Down with international conglomerates and all that. Yeah. The future is yours. You will be galactic president again, I promise.
Ford Prefect stepped into the conversation, waving his towel like a peace flag. I hate to be the one leaving a bag of Soufflinian poo on your dream doorstep, but there may not be time to mount an election campaign for this particular planet. There might not even be time to secure the party nomination. Trillian asked Ford a question she had historically paused at least once per conversation.
What the hell are you talking about, Ford?
Ford raised his hands high like a preacher. All of this is a construct. Guide note, throughout recorded history, people have used constructs to avoid reality. The cheapest way to escape despair is to take refuge in one's imagination. During the day, a person might be forced to work in a quimp slattery, but in the evening that same person can be transformed by sheer force of will and imagination into a rumper of feldsparks. Of course, billions of people have no imaginations, and for these people there are pan-galactic gargle blasters. After 2 of those babies, the dullest, most by-the-book Vorgon will be up on the bar in stilettos, yodeling mountain shankies and swearing he's the king of the grey, binding fiefdoms of Saxaqueen. Unfortunately, this method of escape from reality only lasts for a couple of weekends, by which time the escapee will be quite dead, cause of death usually being a rebellious liver packing its bag and exiting the horse torso via the nearest viable exit. Because liver desertion is not a nice way to go, most species have invented some form of construct to escape their daily lives. The most primitive constructs are cave paintings. Unless you're a guild creature, then it's difficult to get the paint to stick, and if you try it on dry land, then the paint will be sticky, but so will your gills. Cave paintings lead to more sophisticated works, lead to books, first with pictures, then without, back to pictures with television, onwards to 3D experiences, and finally interactive multisensory holographic constructs. Better than the real thing. In the case of the Phlargathon gas swamps, much better than the real thing. The Gassians of Phlargathon were so peeved by their name and the constant stick of Spirogyra invading their nostrils that they hired the hyper-intelligent Magrathians to build an idyllic construct that would be permanently occupied by every Gassian, except for a rotating staff awakened to service the virtual reality and keep the gas mines pumping. The construct was designed by the Magrathian A-team of doctors Brutaltwine, Zestyfang and Lasane, who had won a Gordon Lobe for their work on New Asgard. After 15 years, the construct was ready to be plugged in and was named DBDZDLS in the team's honour. For years things were rosy, all happy snores and money in the bank, until the computer happened to randomly wake up 5 people who did not have the population's best interests at heart. These people, let's call them arseholes, realised that while the cats were indulging themselves in their favourite virtual fantasies, the mice could strip the planet bare and live like les grands fromages in the real universe. It took them 10 years, but the arseholes managed to gut the old planet while the Magrathians were simultaneously building them a brand new one. A nice, Neptune-sized terrestrial world, hauled the swamps, slingshot into orbit in the Alpha Centauri system. They named the planet Incognitus and immediately enforced a worldwide no extradition rule. 5 years later, the Gassians will walk to find their suspended animation diaper bags overflowing and their planet smelling worse than ever. And the moral of the story is, there are a few actually. Some people are bastards and should never be left in charge, and a Magrathian will always take the money, no questions asked. Finally, always fit composting diaper bags just in case, because you really never know. No one really ever knows. 4 minutes, Ford, said Arthur Dent seconds later, feeling confusion and powerlessness appear at his shoulders like two mates from secondary school who were great fun at the time, but now refused to move on like everyone else, and still thought fart cushions were hilarious. That's so bloody typical of this galaxy. I finally get my daughter back, and now you tell me we're all about to be blown to pieces in 4 minutes. Ford punched his shoulder jovially. No. We go back to reality in 4 minutes. It will take the Grebulons at least 30 minutes to carve up the whole planet with death beams. It would be a lot quicker and more cost-effective with nukes. Ask the Vogons. You wouldn't catch them using death beams.
You're wrong, Ford, said Trillian, pale with worry and anger. I remember Club Beta. We survived that. Our Babelfish transported us to Milliways. I remember it clearly.
Clearly? Do you really?
Maybe not clearly, admitted Trillian. It was a long time ago. No, blurted Random. It wasn't Babelfish. It was unicorns.
Unicorns, breathed Arthur, and he knew then that Ford was right. The Guide Mark II had let them supply their own method of escape. His own had involved uniting all of the Earth's superpowers. Clearly impossible.
Yes, Arthur. A squadron of space unicorn rangers came to save us. I remember Sparkle Gem Truehoof. We were pen pals.
Arthur hurriedly changed the subject before anyone could get started on the unicorn theory. In 4 minutes this room will disappear, Ford, and we'll be left facing Grebulon death beams, and you thought it would be a great idea to waste half of that time with your election campaign imagery. I didn't think it was a great idea, said Ford, who didn't get sarcasm unless he really concentrated, which he only did about once a year, usually when he had one last chance to press a correct button or the ship exploded. I thought it was an okay idea. On a scale of 1 to 10, maybe 4.5. Ford! Yes, Arthur, old mate. You're doing it again. Wasting time. Shouldn't we be coming up with a plan? Random wiped her tears on her sleeve. She would swallow down the world of hurt and bear up, just as she had always done as president. Hadn't she persevered when the celebrity chefs of Earth had downed spatulas because of the influx of cheap and flashy Dentrasis labour? Guide note, Dentrasis chefs are extremely foul-mouthed and launch into long tirades even when things are going right, and so make excellent TV chefs. Also, because of their time-hot pods, they do not have to prepare one earlier until the end of the show. Had she not forged ahead when the Blagulon Capons had parachuted 12 million cows into mainland Europe in an attempt to increase the methane content of the atmosphere? Luckily, there were not many vegetarians on that continent, and the cows did not last long, especially since they were Ameglia major cows who literally begged to be eaten. Most of them didn't have to ask twice. Many of them never got to ask once, and quite a few were being flambéed before their parachutes hit the ground. I will take control, thought Random, with a determination that actually was beyond her years. She shrugged her mother off.
Listen to me, everyone. I've been in tighter spots than this. What we need to do is hook your Hitchhiker's Guide up to the Grebulon communications system, and I will negotiate with them as future president of the galaxy.
Ford patted Random on the head. Hush now, dearie, grown-ups talking.
You utter poem wrangler,
swore Random, most unpresidentially. Thank you very much, said a touched Ford, who had always been proud of his skill at the poem-wrangling pits of Barboom Lane. But let's do compliments later. Later, said Arthur. What later? We don't have a later, thanks to your Mark II. It's not mine, objected the Betelgeuse. You stole it, Ford. You posted it yourself, care of me. I think that makes it yours. Ah, you see, I stole it. Therefore it's not mine. You're winning my argument for me. 2.37 said the digital readout. 2.36. Then 0.10. 0.9. Said Ford, scratching the plane in space where his chin was obstinately refusing to be. That's a little strange. I know, agreed Arthur. Surely the numerical system hasn't changed. We've only been away a couple of seconds. Well, if the numerical system's been changed, there might not even be seconds. The bird reappeared, its image striated with lines of interference. Sorry, all this arguing is draining my battery. Negative energy. And Mark II disappeared, taking with it the tranquil room of sky. Arthur, Trillian, Random and Ford found themselves deposited on the men's room stairs in Stavron Muller's swanky, until very recently, Club Beata, their memories of virtual lives dissipating like mist in the sunlight. This is real life, Arthur realised. How could I ever been duped by that beach? How could it have been real when no one was trying to kill me? The air was alive with screaming. The cacophonous, wrenching sounds of civilization collapsing, the thrum and buzz of Grebulon death rays, and the chittering of a million rats fleeing the city, which the 4 arrivees could understand thanks to the Babelfish universal translators in their ear holes.
I saw it in one of those dog intestines, squeaked one lady rat named Audrey. I foretold the end for the 2-footers by a big green space light. Nobody would bloody listen. Nobody. Come on, Mum, scoffed her 18th son, Cornelius. You said a dark stranger would cross our path. Them's dark strangers, firing them death beams. What would you call them?
Cornelius twitched a whisker, the rat equivalent of rolled eyeballs.
That's one interpretation. You need to be more specific, Mum. People are laughing. Cheeky beggar, said Audrey, and scampered off down a drain. The rest of the rats said things like, Oh no! Oh Moiredeem, father of the rat gods. Ugh, dark stranger my arse. Arthur Dent sat on the stairs in the midst of the hall imbroglio, feeling strangely peaceful. There was nothing to do but be happy for having loved someone once, and having been loved in return. It was big dying. Big. But not as big as it had once seemed. At the foot of the stairs, the sobbing Random was being comforted by both Trillian and Tricia Macmillan. Stupid bloody plural zone, thought Arthur. You leave one earth and come back to another. The earth I left was destroyed, and the one I returned to as a Tricia Macmillan who never travelled through space were the Zaphod Beeblebrox. Ah, the infinite multitudinous possibilities of my home planet. The things I might have seen on another earth, just down the probability axis. Might have made myself a nice cup of tea. Regrets, he said absently. I've had a few. Like all those days, spent in detention. Frankie Martin Jr., what a crooner. The green rays scythed closer now. Arthur could feel their heat burning one side of his face. That's going to peel, he thought. Hey, look, hey, said Ford brightly. My blue suede shoes. Fruity.